What's going on, traders? We're going to get straight into it. Right now, we are looking at Nvidia's daily time frame. And as you guys can see, we are looking at a head and shoulders pattern. We have our shoulder here, head here, another shoulder here. Now, before you argue in the comments and say, that's not a head and shoulders pattern, I encourage you to Google head and shoulders patterns and then watch my last video on identifying head and shoulders pattern and then get back to me once you're done. Now, once again, we're looking at a head and shoulders pattern on Nvidia. And if you guys have been on the channel for quite some time, you know that I've been pretty bearish up until this point. I've been bearish for like the past 2 weeks. I pretty much said that I think the market is going to drop more. I even said for Nvidia earnings, before Nvidia earnings, and you can check for that thumbnail, that I don't think Nvidia is going to react well to its earnings, whether they are good or bad. And that's exactly what happened. And I said if Nvidia breaks 117, it's going to head lower. And so the thumbnail that you guys are pretty much looking at right now is not actual clickbait. We could be looking at a potential pump and dump scenario. What do I mean by that? So right now we have a fair value gap at around 115, 118 range. And we closed above this trend here where we either, like I said, pump or dump. So we pump, we head towards this fair value gap, we mitigate this fair value gap. There's also a gap here, an open gap here at around between 116, 118. We close that gap, and then I think we're going to head lower. Now, another scenario is obviously that we just continue to dump from here, where this could be an easy, pretty much an easy bull trap right here, where, callers got in or bulls got in, and then we just completely break down because of CPI data coming in bad. Now, what's important to note is that this white trend line is not our neckline. This blue trend line is actually the neckline for the head and shoulders pattern, which is around $98, $95, give or take. If we break below this, I do think Nvidia is going to head towards the 200 daily SMA, which is around the $90 mark, which I also think is a beautiful buying opportunity. But we're not going to get too deep into that, but that is something to pay attention to. So, very, very beautiful head and shoulders pattern. A lot of retail traders have this misconception that head and shoulders patterns have to be upright and look like the perfect human being. Once again, the market does not care about how perfect a pattern looks. The market moves off algorithms and emotion, okay? It doesn't care about perfection, okay? Because why? Emotions are not perfected. Human emotions, to be exact, are not perfected. So just a little interesting rant right there. So what's really interesting to me is what our Discord bot did. And so our Discord bot alerted 116 calls for September 20th. The premium is 400,000, 400K. And then we have an AI confidence of 66%. Volume is 3,000. Open interest is 40,000. Again, the strike price is 116, which is very interesting because the fair value gap is at around 116. Something to really think about here. Okay. So again, I think that's an excellent hedging position, if anything. So it looks like it's the perfect setup for more upside in regards to Nvidia. But after this move happens, I think the upside is going to be very limited, and I don't think we're going to see much of more upside after this fair value gap is mitigated. If anything, I think we're going to pretty much drop from there. So what I would pay attention to is if Nvidia breaks above 110. If Nvidia breaks above 110, then I absolutely think that this play is going to play out. All right. I honestly think it could play out now, but I want to be safe. We want to be safe. And right now, we want NVIDIA to break above 110 to really confirm this play. And then at that point, I think we're just going to head towards this fair value gap and pretty much mitigate it. There was another order I was talking about with a Discord member. It was 115 calls on NVIDIA all the way in October. I couldn't find it, but it definitely showed up for both of us. So yeah, so hopefully you can take my word for it. If not, that's fine as well. Now, next I want to look at SMH. Now, SMH is a semiconductor ETF, and one of its number one holding is Nvidia, right? And so SMH is in pretty much the same position as Nvidia, where we're at the 200 daily SMA. And let me get rid of this arrow real quick. Right now, we're at above the 200 daily SMA. And again, we've been talking about this for quite some time. So all the OGs who've been watching this channel for some time know where we're looking at right now. We're looking at a head and shoulders pattern. We have our shoulder here, head here, another shoulder here, high here, lower high here. And so again, if we are attempting to bounce off the 200 daily SMA and start mitigating fair value gaps up to the upside, then we're looking at another lower high here where we have high here, lower high, and then we pretty much mitigate this fair value gap all the way into 230s, and then we break down further. Now, what makes me confident that we're going to break down further? Well, the amount of times we pretty much broke below the 200 daily SMA. We broke below it here and we broke below it once again. So that shows me that bears are really, really trying to break this thing down. Another thing, that we've been talking about quite some time, where I tell you guys that you don't need a volume profile to understand where the market is trying to go. Look at these daily candles. Look at the bearish candles versus the bullish candles. You have huge bearish candle here, small bullish candle, bigger bearish candle, bigger bearish candle, bigger bearish candle, bigger bearish candle, small bullish candle, huge engulfing candle, bearish candle, small bullish, bigger bearish candle. I mean, the list goes on, but you got hopefully you guys get the idea that bears are taking control. Okay, they are absolutely in control right now. You're barely seeing reaction. Any upside we do get, you're hardly seeing a reaction from the bulls, right? And so we can say that sure, they're waiting on news, they're waiting on, the CPI data, whatever the case may be. But right now, I think bears are in control. And if anything, if we do get a pump and dump scenario, then I'm looking at SMH to pretty much pump to about 230s and then reject from there. And then we start heading towards our neckline at around the $200 mark, which is around this blue line here. Now, what if we don't pump and dump? What if we just break completely down? I honestly think, as much as I would love that move, because the reason why I would love that move, if we break completely down, then that still leaves this fair value gap open, and then I think more than likely we're going to bounce off the not the 200, but this $200 level and break off, bounce off this neckline for the head and shoulders pattern, and really start heading higher towards this fair value gap. And if we do head towards the 200, I do imagine Nvidia is going to be at the $90 range. Again, beautiful buying opportunity, at least for myself. You do what you want with the information. But if we head towards here and Nvidia is at $90, I think that's a perfect setup for those fair value gaps to start getting mitigated. And I think those are perfect buying opportunities and trading opportunities, for the Discord or for you yourself if you want to. So this is the move that I would honestly want, where we just CPI data comes in, however, the market reacts badly to it, and then we start to just break completely down, hit this $200 mark. I enter shares, calls, whatever I decide to do, for the Discord, and then we just start heading. We just start going absolutely ballistic to the upside. Now, what would cause this? So if we do break down, right? If we break down before rate cuts and rate cuts come in, I do imagine rate cuts will cause the bounce from here. Okay, and then we start heading towards these fair value gaps and mitigating them. All right, so that is a potential move there. That is a move that I would be looking at in regards to SMH and Nvidia. And I didn't go too much into detail in regards to Nvidia breaking down, but again, if Nvidia, just like SMH, if Nvidia just decides to break further down and head straight to the $90 range, or head towards this neckline at around the 96, $95 range, then that will leave this fair value gap open. And I think that will be a beautiful buying opportunity. And we could start heading towards this fair value gap, or bounce from the neckline, the head and shoulders neckline, and start heading towards this fair value gap and mitigating it. So I would really love that move. But again, we could be looking at a pump and dump scenario. So if this move happened, then consider yourself blessed, okay? Because that I definitely will talk about that in the next video if this move just so happens to happen. All right. So what is next? All right. So Nvidia. So the bot alerted 116 calls for Nvidia. I thought that was very interesting. But another thing that was very interesting is Apple puts. All right. Apple puts. So the bot in our Discord, and if you want access to the Discord, link is in the description below. The bot alerted 215 puts for September 30th. The AI confidence is 65. The premium is 1.4 million. The volume is 8,000 and the open interest is 23,000. All right. So this is very interesting. Why? Because we've seen this happen before. And I'm not saying, the bot is 100% accurate or anything. It is very accurate in my opinion. Discord members really like it. But what I will say is that we've seen this move happen before, where at the beginning of the year, we saw the whole AI hype, and Apple was pretty much trailing behind the whole AI hype. Nvidia was pumping, semiconductors were pumping, and then Apple itself was pretty much just dropping the whole time until it actually started mentioning AI, and then it started to recover. So we could be looking at the same scenario here. Now, we don't necessarily have to look at the same scenario. Maybe we just drop, like I said, maybe we just drop completely, and then the whole Nvidia calls start to kick in once we hit those key levels that I was talking about, and we start heading towards these fair value gaps. Because keep in mind, the expiration for this is next week, while the expiration for this Apple play is this week. All right. But don't take the AI bot's word for it. Always do your due diligence, do your own TA. But I really thought it was very interesting that Apple puts came in while Nvidia calls came in for next week. So Pretty interesting. Now, Apple does have a habit of doing the opposite of the market, and we've seen that happen for like the past 2 days. So, that's something to pay attention to. All right. So, in regards to Apple, so Apple's in a very, very weird spot here. Right now, it's above this daily supply and demand zone, which is very interesting. It broke below this trend, and you could say that you're more than welcome to say that this is an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming. Me personally, I have my own rules for inverse head and shoulders patterns. Once a trend is broken on an inverse head and shoulders pattern or a head and shoulders pattern, then I don't consider it valid anymore. Now, that's just my rule. You're more than welcome to have your own rules in regards to patterns, but that is a rule that I stand by, simply because I've seen it work. Okay, I've seen it work plenty of times, so I stick by it. You do what you want with this information. So there is a possible where there is an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming here, where you have your neckline up here with this blue line up here. It's around the 230s, 232 range, and then you have a shoulder here, another shoulder forming here, but you haven't really got a bullish candle to the upside, so it's not yet complete. And then you have a head right here. All right, so very interesting. We're in 205 puts for October in Apple. We got in at around 223, 224, so we're currently in profit on the play. But really interesting that the bot alerted those 215 puts, and I do think Apple does have the potential to see at least 210 right where these guys are. So very, very interesting. Now, let's talk about NQ. So NQ is in another interesting spot as well. And so what I find interesting about NQ here, let's actually go to I think it's the weekly time frame. Yeah. So what NQ did here, so we have a head and shoulders pattern here, we have a shoulder here, head here, another shoulder here. And just like we saw on SMH, the exact same setup as we saw on SMH. We bounced here, we bounced here, we broke down, we broke back above the trend, and we broke down once again. So right now we're above a weekly supply and demand zone. And so what I really, really think is interesting here is that NQ can absolutely see 19,000. I do think it's possible. I do also think that 19,200, between 19,200 and 19,300 is possible as well. After that, I don't think I can't. I'm not looking at more upside from that point on. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now NQ is more than welcome to prove me wrong, obviously, but right now I'm looking at around 19K, 19,200 being the max. Where we pretty much let's actually go to a smaller time frame where we either head towards this fair value gap here. We pretty much mitigate this at around, well, actually, the top of this is around 19,300, and then we break down. Okay. So, again, we could be looking at a pump and dump scenario on the NQ. Our neckline, which is very interesting. So, our neckline is right below the weekly supply and demand zone, and it's around 17,500. If we break below 17,500, pack your bags. The apocalypse is coming. Okay. That's all I'm going to say about it. Until we get closer to that target, then we'll talk about it. But right now, things are looking okay. Okay. But again, I'm not looking to bet against this head and shoulders pattern. If anything, I would just hedge my positions. Right now, we're in TLT calls. We got in at around when TLT was at $95. Um, and then where's TLT now? TLT is at like 100 right now. Yeah, so TLT, we got in $100 strike calls for September 20th. We got in like a few weeks ago. We got in at around $95, right around this break right here, and TLT has been absolutely paying us a bag ever since. So, yeah, you're missing out if you're not in the Discord. I mean, we've been going crazy. But again, Nasdaq, very interesting spot. ES, now, ES, I wouldn't consider this a head and shoulders pattern. By all means, you're free to, call this a head and shoulders pattern if you want. Me, it's looking more like a double top, in my opinion. So we have a top here, and then our neckline will be all the way down towards the 5,000 level, 5,100, and then 4,950 level. If ES just so happen to break above 5,525, that's somewhat bullish. If it breaks above 5,550, then we could be looking at new highs all over again. So something very interesting to talk about here. Now, it's very interesting where ES is right now because if we look closely and we go to a smaller time frame, and I know this looks very cluttered and noisy, but if we go to a smaller time frame, right now we are at a supply and demand zone. So either, and there is a hammer pattern right here. So either we reject from here and head lower, or we head higher. So it's really up in the air. So either this hammer pattern turns out to be a reversal pattern and break down, or we head higher. What's also interesting is what's happening on the other side of the supply and demand zone, where we have a lot of turbulence in this area. Okay, a lot of turbulence. So we really, really need some good news to just really break past these guys. Okay. Now, we do have a, debate tonight. We have Donald Trump and Kamala Harris debating tonight. Investors are expecting if, or investor expectations are if Donald Trump wins the debate, then that's bullish for the market. If Kamala wins, then that's bearish for the market. So, n- not something set in stone, in my opinion, but something to pay attention to. And if Donald Trump wins, then that's bullish for Bitcoin as well. All right, so something to keep in mind if you want to watch the debate and just see who wins and see how the market reacts to it. Me, I plan on watching it, but I'm more so watching it for entertainment purposes. After the last debate with Biden and Trump, I just can't wait to see this. Okay, so that's just me. Triple Qs. So triple Qs, again, like I said, we're just really trying to mitigate a lot of these fair value gaps before we head lower. We're looking at the daily time frame. I do think triple Qs has potential to see at least 462. I'm not looking much higher than that. And so we go to the, I want to say the weekly time frame, and again, we have another head and shoulders pattern. Okay, another head and shoulders pattern. And so actually, this is a bit off. So there we go. So we have another head and shoulders pattern on the triple Qs. We have our head here, not a head, shoulder here, another shoulder here, and then our neckline is all the way around the 425, 420 range. Okay, our 200 daily SMA is around the 440s. I do think triple Qs is going to head towards 440. It's just a matter of when. Maybe rate cuts, maybe this week, who knows? But that's one of my bearish targets. As far as all-time high targets for triple Qs, which I do think all-time highs is going to happen this year. So just in case you think I'm a perma bear, my all-time high target is 510. I definitely think that's possible. I called 510 before it even hit 503, so I was pretty close, but I still think 510 is on the table. We'll just have to see when that happens. Spy, not much to discuss here. Oh, actually, there is. So remember I was telling you guys about this inverse head and shoulders pattern. My rules still stand until the spy does one of these moves. All right, until it breaks back into this channel, breaks and retests 565 and head higher, that's when we'll start talking about high all-time highs. At that point, we'll be at all-time highs, but we'll talk about my target of 580 and then 600. And as you guys can see, this is the channel that I've been talking about if you're new to the YouTube channel, where we've been trading in this for about a year now. We bounced here, we bounced here, we broke down, we broke back in, we're breaking down again. If we manage to break in here again, then I imagine bulls are going to just set full sale, because this will be what, the second, yeah, about the second time we broke back in here. At that point, I think bulls are just going to go absolutely ballistic, and there's no stopping us or stopping bulls at that point. But other than that, that's really all I have for this video. CPI data is tomorrow. Make sure you watch the debate tonight. Whoever you vote for, it doesn't really matter. But you just want to see how the market reacts to, or at least that's what I'm watching for. I want to see how the market reacts to whoever wins or whoever seems to be winning or losing. Okay, so that's all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. I really appreciate the support lately. I mean, the channel has been growing like crazy. I had no high expectations. I'm not monetized at all. I just do this for fun, guys. So I really appreciate the support. I appreciate the love, the comments, whether they're positive or negative. Discord link is in the description below. A lot of you are asking me for like plays in the comments. That's absolutely insane when you know you have to join the Discord if you want my plays. I may give out some here and there on the channel, but asking for them on demand is insane. So I thought that was funny. But regardless, thank you once again for the support, guys. Until the next video, traders, have a good one.